Hi friends, welcome to Harmony Hills Home and Garden. I'm Jenny. We're gardening here in Baltimore, Maryland, Zone 7. Today I'm going to be starting a new series here on this channel, and that is a refresh on the front foundation beds. Come with me and let's get started on this fun project. If you've been with me on this channel for any length of time, you may remember that I have been working on the south side of the front foundation bed. For most of the summer, I've taken out a lot of things and I've put in a few things. And so now it's time for me to address both sides of the foundation plantings, make them more cohesive with each other, and make sure that I have pretty interesting things to look at all seasons of the year. And this is what we're starting with. And I'll say, I don't hate it. There's a lot of good stuff happening here, and it's a really good starting place. The first thing I want to do in this project is to kind of assess what we have here already in the garden, what we're working with, and what we might want to keep or get rid of or rearrange. First, let's take a look at what we have. Over on this side, we have a Pennsylvania fieldstone pathway that's set in mulch, and it goes over to the two gates that we have into the backyard. And then there's also a little spur of that pathway that comes out onto the lawn over there by that bird feeder. And then in this bed between the path and the lawn, we have this lemon thread false cypress, which desperately needs a haircut. We have an old dwarf Alberta spruce that has some damage in it, but it seems to be filling in. And so I'm hoping that that will fill in and be a nice little accent there. I have a double red knockout rose that does perform well. I have a beautiful spirea. It's currently not in bloom, but this blooms twice a year, and it's really, really, really strong, solid plant. Coming around this side, I have 3 encore azaleas. There's one here, one there, and one here. These are the autumn twist encore azalea. And then I have this beauty berry, which is already set its fruit for the fall. All of these little berries will turn a beautiful purple color. Now, I think this beauty berry is probably misplaced. It shouldn't be in this position here because naturally it wants to grow very large. Every year I cut it down to about a foot off the ground, and then this is this year's growth. If I were to not cut it back, I think this plant would probably get to be 6, 8, 10 feet tall and wide. I don't know. I would like to move it out of this bed, probably place it over here somewhere, and then use this space for something that naturally wants to stay at the 3-foot range rather than me having to fight with something to keep it 3 or 4 feet. These are the lily trees that bloom so beautifully in July. I have a lovely Miss Kim lilac right here, which I love and I want more of. Beside that, these are delphiniums that I grew from seed 3 or 4 years ago, and they're so strange because these have never bloomed any time other than October. I don't know if they're supposed to bloom earlier than that, but you can see their bloom heads coming on, starting to set seed, not seed, but to set flower, and they'll bloom in October, and it's so strange. But they're a nice tall purple flower when they're blooming. I do have a hydrangea here. I'm not sure what kind of hydrangea this is. It might be endless summer, but because we have so much deer out here, it takes tons of deer damage, and it hasn't flowered in 5 years. So I really could take this out. And then I have a peony over here, a baptisia, and then perennials. The rest of these are perennials, and I like them, and I'm happy to have them here. I forgot to mention, I do have this shrub here. This is a shrub rose. It's called the fairy, and I love that too. All right, and then in the more traditional foundation area up against the house, this is a huge laurel. It's probably cherry laurel. It is 5.5, 6 feet tall and wide, and it's hollow on the inside. Not much happening in there. So this is a candidate to actually do a really, really, really hard prune, probably next late winter, probably in March next year. We'll cut that down to be about 1.5 feet tall and let it flush out with smaller growth. Here, I believe this is a wax leaf privet, and it too is really kind of gangly and hollow. And then in front of it is a double red knockout rose, which looks pretty eaten from the sawfly larvae. So the plan here would be to move this double rose out, the double knockout red, move it out, and then again take this shrub and cut it back down and let it reflush low. This is a crepe myrtle. It has a pretty color flower, but I don't care for crepe myrtle shrubs, mainly because they look dead about 9 months out of the year. They don't really put on their leaves until July, and then they put in their flowers in August, and then by October they're dead and bare. And so from October until about June, they have nothing going on. They just are sticks. So I want to take this out. I might give it to somebody else and get rid of it, or I might transplant it somewhere else. I'm not sure yet. And then this is a beautiful rhododendron, and I love this plant, and I definitely want it to stay here. It's covered with buds for next spring. And this is a beautiful purpley magenta-y color, and I love it. So that definitely is going to stay. Back along this way, on this side, we have a big azalea. This is a big white azalea, pure white, and I love it. So I'd like that to stay as well. On this side, I want something here. I've been trying to do clematis there, and it has really not been working. It gets clematis wilt every summer, and so I need probably some sort of evergreen, tall, thin evergreen here. This is currently a perennial bed, and I do have a teeny tiny baby hydrangea. This is a mini mauvette hydrangea down there, but the deer have eaten it off completely twice. So I really need to move that inside the fence. And then put something else, evergreen probably here, as a nice shrub with the perennials around it as an accent. And then over here, this is a Korean spice viburnum, and it has beautiful, lovely scented, fragrant flowers in the spring. And I do see that it's starting to set its buds for next spring as well. And my goal with this is to let it grow tall and then limb it up and make it into a small tree. And speaking of small trees, if we peek back in here, there it is. This is a serviceberry, Amelanchier, I believe. I believe it's a native species serviceberry, and I got this as a sapling last year for free from the city of Baltimore, and I planted it here, and it's going to take another 5, 8, 10 years before it's a tree, really. But I am letting it grow on here, and eventually, a long time from now, there will be a serviceberry tree right here, and then this viburnum over here, and then this pathway will be marked by those two trees. So all things considered, I am pretty happy with this side of the flower bed. I love the azalea, I love the rhododendron. I'm happy with the 3 small encore azaleas. I like you know, kind of the structure, but I do want to make some changes. I want to get that beautyberry out so that it can live its best life somewhere else and allow itself to get bigger. And then I want to take out this crepe myrtle and this rose, and then trim down all these foundation shrubs next spring and let them regrow in a smaller shape. And then also on this side, I want to continue what I've got going, which is a mixed border, and that means shrubs, annuals, perennials, bulbs, and even small trees. And I have that plan kind of started here, and I'd like to build on that and make this a beautiful mixed border. Okay, so now let's talk about this south side, which is the place that really needs the most renovation and the one where I'd like to focus my efforts. Okay, so on this south side, this is where I've been working this year. We already have a little bit of symmetry going on. We've got the matching lemon thread cypress and the liriope and the dwarf Alberta spruce and the double red knockout rose and the spirea. We also have some holly and then another of those laurels and then more holly down the way. There's not holly on this side, but there is that laurel, and there's a big laurel here as well. And that's about all that we have so far in here that matches the other side, just this front corner area. Except I did plant in 2 of these autumn twist encore azaleas just a couple of days ago, and they are going to match the 3 that are over there. And then there is 1 white azalea back over there, and there's 1 white azalea right here. So that brings a little bit of balance to the color story in the spring out here. But otherwise, this is kind of a standalone, on its own kind of bed. And this is where I'd like to put in some effort. So as you can see, I have this huge area in the middle where I took out some crepe myrtles that were just too ugly for my taste. I also took out some old roses here and put those azaleas in their place. I do have a fairy rose here that matches the one that's on the north side front. Everything else in here, let's see. There's a peony there that I just transplanted to try to give it some more light than it was getting. It looks like it needs some fertilizer. I have a double red knockout rose here. And then back up in this way, that's where I transplanted a Mary rose earlier this season, and it looks like it's taking, although there's some weeds around it too. Sorry for the noise. Okay, and then this is a rose that I just planted this year that's called, I believe, I don't remember. I'll have to look it up and put it up on the screen. And otherwise, this is wax leaf privet and the azalea, and then hollies. I believe these are Burford hollies. I'm not exactly sure. Up to the corner, and then that's one of those laurels again, and then a holly here. So I want to fill this in, and I do want it to be balanced with the other side, but it doesn't have to be perfectly symmetric. And so this is the main area that I want to make some changes. Okay, so my desires for this flower bed. Number 1, it has to be deer resistant. I have a big deer problem in my neighborhood, and I don't feel like putting plants out here only to have them be eaten. Number 2, I'd like to have it be a mixed border. So small trees, shrubs, perennials, annuals, and bulbs. And I'd love to have it be interesting all season long. So in the winter, some evergreen, or at least some red or blue or green foliage that stays throughout the winter. And then colorful in the form of flowers and foliage all through the season. So early spring bulbs all the way through fall foliage and berries. Let's see. I would love it if it were a mix of colors of foliage. Did I say that already? So some red, chartreuse, blue, green, just a nice variety. I'd love it to be easy care if that's possible, but that's not always possible, so it's all right. Oh, and the other thing is eventually we're going to change the shape of it. I don't know if that's going to happen on this particular renovation project or if it'll happen next spring, but we are going to smooth this out. It's a little bit wavy on both sides, and I think we're going to just smooth it out to make a nice curve. But I don't know if that's happening in this project or not. And I forgot to mention one very critical factor, and that is sunlight. How much sun do these flower beds get? On the south side, it is in shade, as you can see right now. It's about 10 in the morning right now. This is in full shade until at least 11:30 a.m. And then it gets western sun, but we do have a stand of trees along the south side of our property that cast shade on this, I would say from about here toward that way, it's pretty much full shade, dappled sunlight at most. And then from about there to that way, it does end up getting some full direct sun in the afternoon. So whatever I plant from here up has to be able to withstand hot, westerly, full sun in the summer. But from here down, it is dappled shade. On the other side, on the north, it's in the shade right now. And at around 11:30 or so in the morning, again, toward the sidewalk, it gets more sun. And then toward the other side of the house, it gets more shade. So we have a nice mix. But I would say in general, this area on the north side gets more sun than this area on the south in terms of hours of direct sunlight. And while mainly I'm talking about kind of refreshing this area of the flower bed, I wouldn't mind addressing down here around this corner as well. Currently, it's mostly weeds. We have this crepe myrtle tree, which is beautiful. And then we have this wax leaf privet, which I can take or leave. I'll probably leave it just because it's there. But then we have all this space here that we could put in some new shrubs or perennials or whatever. And then along the south side of the house is another planting area that we could choose to take on, but probably not gonna do this side in this project. I don't know if I'm gonna do this section or not in this project. We'll see. So how do we achieve these goals? What do we need to add, remove, or rearrange to make this flower bed a success? Of course, I have already been to the store and I have purchased a few shrubs to put in here. Let's show you. Who's surprised? There are now plants in my plant stash area. Gee, how'd that happen? My plant stash was empty, I think for 23 hours. I think the day after I emptied it, we went to the nursery and we bought these shrubs. Let me give you a look at what we got. I'm excited about this because it's gonna bring some interesting color to the front, and now it's a matter of figuring out where we're putting them. The first plants I wanna talk about are these 4. I have 4 of these plants. They are Gerard's Rainbow Leucothui, and they are an evergreen shrub, and look at the variegation on these beauties. They have green, they have pink, they have yellow, chartreuse, almost even creamy white in some of the newer growth. These are going to be beautiful. They grow to be about 4 by 4, and they're hardy down to zone 5. They want to have morning sun or dappled sun, so I'm going to find a spot to put them where they're not going to get baked in the afternoon full sun. The next thing I got is another Miss Kim lilac. Now, here in zone 7, it's difficult for us to grow true lilacs like the common lilac or many of the other cultivars because we don't get cold enough in the winter. And so Miss Kim is one that we do have success with, and I have one out front, and I'm excited to put another one out on the south side of the garden. Now, Miss Kim wants part to full sun and flowers in the spring, of course. It's hardy from zones 4 to 8. So again, this is one of the few lilacs that will do well here in zone 7. It says it'll grow 6 to 8 feet tall and wide. However, I think that we can maintain its shape with judicious pruning. And then the last thing I got are 2 of these orange rocket barberries. Now, these are full sun plants, and I love the color. First of all, its new growth is orangish yellow, and its older growth is more of a darker maroon burgundy color. And look how wonderful this matches with the pink that's in this Leucothui. What a great pairing that is going to be together in the garden. So as much as I really want to just take these plants around front and start digging them in, what I'm going to do instead is actually slow down, and I'm going to do what I don't normally do, and I'm going to make a planting plan. I want this this refresh of the front garden to be something that will last and not have to be redone, at least not too much. So I'm going to actually take some photos and I'm going to convert those to drawings, and then I'm going to plan what plants I'm going to put where in this front bed, which ones I'm going to remove and which ones I'm going to trim down and so forth, and come up with a plan before I get my shovel out. One of the reasons I'm going to do it this way is that it is just blooming hot out here. It's super humid. It's going to get up into the mid-90s today and pretty much every day in the coming future. So my strategy for this particular project is to do some of the planting work inside where it's cooler. Just keep those new plants watered well and be smart about not having to work out here in this pretty bad heat. So friends, thank you for joining me today, getting started with this fun new project. I hope you will subscribe and follow along with me as we make new plans for this space and get them implemented. Fall is a great time for planting, and this is a hopefully not too terribly hard project to undertake and really benefit from in future seasons. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you'll join me again sometime very soon. I'll see you in another video. Have a good day, friends. Bye-bye.